What if a split-second decision could save a billionaire's life, and uncover a deadly conspiracy? Stay tuned to see how one teenager's gut feeling changed everything. Jasper Trevor wiped his hands on his worn jeans as the sun dipped below the Chicago skyline, casting long shadows across the streets. The rumble of traffic mixed with the distant chatter of pedestrians as he made his way home from the gas station where he worked part-time. At 17, Jasper had learned early that life wasn't fair. His foster family provided a roof over his head, but little else. Every dollar he earned went toward helping his younger sister, Layla, who dreamed of escaping their circumstances just as much as he did. Lost in thought, Jasper was startled by the sudden screech of tires. He turned to see a sleek black car pull up in front of a luxury hotel. A tall man in an impeccably tailored suit stepped out, his posture rigid, his expression distant. Jasper immediately recognized the type, a corporate big shot, someone who probably never worried about where their next meal would come from. Yet something about this man caught Jasper's attention. He looked out of place, almost vulnerable, as he adjusted his cufflinks and glanced around as though searching for something, or someone. The man's eyes were heavy with exhaustion, his shoulders sagging despite the sharp lines of his suit. Jasper frowned. It wasn't pity he felt, but something else. A nagging unease crept up his spine. As the man strode toward the hotel entrance, he hesitated, pulled out his phone, and spoke in a low, urgent tone. Jasper couldn't hear the words, but the man's expression darkened. He suddenly turned and headed back to the car. Jasper's curiosity grew as he watched the car speed off, heading toward the outskirts of the city. Something about this felt off, though Jasper couldn't put his finger on why. Against his better judgment, Jasper decided to follow. He had no car, so he sprinted to the nearest bus stop, hopping on a route he knew would take him close to the private airport on the city's edge. He had overheard enough snippets of conversations at the gas station to know that was where men like the stranger would go if they wanted to leave the city quickly and quietly. By the time Jasper arrived at the small, dimly lit terminal, his lungs burned from running the last mile after the bus dropped him off. Sure enough, there was the man, standing by a private jet on the tarmac. His car was parked nearby, and a pilot in a crisp uniform was briefing him. Jasper couldn't explain it, but the sight filled him with dread. Without thinking, Jasper pushed past the security checkpoint, ignoring the startled protests of the guards. His legs moved on instinct, carrying him toward the stranger. "Hey!" Jasper shouted, his voice cutting through the hum of the jet engines. The man turned, surprised. "What the hell are you doing?" the man demanded, his voice sharp but tinged with confusion. "Don't get on that plane." Jasper blurted out, breathless. The words felt absurd even as they left his mouth, but he couldn't stop them. "Something's wrong. I can feel it." The man narrowed his eyes, stepping closer. "Do I know you?" His tone was laced with suspicion. "No, but," Jasper hesitated, suddenly realizing how insane he sounded. He swallowed hard and tried again. "Look, I don't know why, but I have a really bad feeling about this. Just don't get on that plane." The man stared at him for a long moment, as if trying to gauge whether Jasper was lying, crazy, or something else entirely. Finally, he let out a harsh laugh, shaking his head. "This is ridiculous," he muttered, turning back toward the plane. "Wait!" Jasper yelled, his voice cracking with urgency. "I'm serious. Please, just trust me." For a moment, the man hesitated. The pilot called out, signaling that they were ready for takeoff. The man glanced between the jet and Jasper, the uncertainty flickering in his eyes. "Sir, we need to go," the pilot urged. The man sighed heavily, his shoulders slumping. He waved off the pilot and turned back toward the terminal, his expression unreadable. "Fine. But if this is some kind of scam..." "It's not," Jasper interrupted, relief flooding him. "I swear." The man didn't respond, brushing past Jasper as he headed back toward the terminal. Jasper stood frozen on the tarmac, heart pounding, unable to shake the feeling that he had just prevented something terrible, though what, he couldn't begin to guess. Inside the small terminal, the tension between Jasper and the man crackled like static electricity. The older man, clearly wealthy and accustomed to control, paced back and forth, running his fingers through his perfectly combed hair. Jasper sat slouched in a plastic chair near the corner, trying to catch his breath and gather his thoughts. The fluorescent lights buzzed softly, casting a cold glow over the otherwise empty waiting area. "All right," the man said finally, breaking the silence. His voice was sharp, like the crack of a whip. "You've got my attention. Who are you, and what in God's name made you think you could pull a stunt like that?" Jasper sat up straighter, feeling a mix of embarrassment and defiance. "I'm Jasper Trevor. I work at a gas station in town. I don't know why I stopped you, okay? I had this feeling. Like something really bad was going to happen if you got on that plane." The man snorted, crossing his arms. "A feeling? That's your big explanation." Jasper met his gaze evenly. "Yeah, a feeling. I can't explain it, but I've learned to trust my instincts. They've saved my life before." The man paused, his brow furrowing as he studied Jasper more closely. "Saved your life? What are you talking about?" Jasper hesitated, uncomfortable under the man's scrutiny. "Look, you wouldn't understand. My life isn't exactly easy. I've had to figure out when to trust people, when to run, when to stay. It's not perfect, but it works. And tonight, my gut told me something was wrong." The man let out a slow breath, some of the edge leaving his posture. "All right, Jasper. I'll humor you for a minute. My name's Jordan Westbrook. I run a handful of companies, tech, finance, real estate, you name it. I've dealt with all kinds of people, liars, scammers, even con artists who would have done anything to get what they wanted from me. You don't seem like any of those things." Jasper shrugged, unsure whether that was a compliment or an insult. Jordan continued, his voice softer now. "You're right about one thing, though. Something has been off tonight. My pilot told me everything was fine, but my assistant called earlier, frantic, saying she had a bad feeling about the trip. I ignored her because, well, you don't get far in my world by being superstitious." Jasper perked up at this. "But you didn't ignore me." Jordan smirked faintly. "You were a lot harder to ignore. You practically tackled me on the tarmac." Before Jasper could respond, the muffled sound of a television in the corner caught their attention. A news anchor's voice filtered through the static, somber and urgent. "This just in, an alarming report from a local private airport. A private jet departing from Chicago has crashed just minutes after takeoff. Early reports suggest mechanical failure, though investigations are ongoing. There are no survivors." Jasper's heart dropped into his stomach. He turned to look at Jordan, whose face had gone pale. For a moment, neither of them spoke, the weight of the revelation settling between them. That was my plane," Jordan whispered, his voice barely audible. Jasper's mouth went dry. "I told you something was wrong." Jordan stared at him, his disbelief turning to something deeper, an uneasy mixture of gratitude and awe. "You saved my life." Jasper shook his head. "I don't know about that. No," Jordan interrupted, his voice firm now. "You saved my life. If I had been on that plane," he trailed off, his eyes fixed on the TV screen as footage of the crash site played, the wreckage still smoldering. The terminal door opened, and a few members of Jordan's staff hurried in, their faces pale with shock. They bombarded him with questions, asking if he was all right, how he had missed the flight, what had happened. Jordan waved them off, his attention fixed on Jasper. "Why did you come after me?" he asked again, his tone quieter this time. "You didn't even know me." Jasper shrugged, feeling awkward under the man's intense gaze. I don't know. It felt like the right thing to do. Jordan nodded slowly, his mind clearly racing. He turned to his staff, issuing quick, authoritative orders. Contact the authorities, confirm the crash details. Tell them I'm safe and wasn't on board. And cancel all my plans for tomorrow, I'll deal with this personally. As the staff dispersed, Jordan glanced back at Jasper. You've got guts, kid. And clearly, you've got a knack for knowing when something's wrong. I think you and I need to have a longer conversation. Jasper blinked, surprised. What do you mean? I mean, Jordan said, a small, determined smile forming on his lips, that people like you don't come into my life by accident. Jordan sat in his penthouse suite later that night, staring out at the glittering Chicago skyline. The events of the evening replayed in his mind over and over. He couldn't shake the image of the fiery crash on the news or the quiet conviction in Jasper's eyes as he had begged him not to board the plane. For the first time in years, Jordan felt genuinely shaken, like the ground beneath him had tilted slightly off-center. He picked up his phone and dialed his assistant, Claire. Mr. Westbrook, she answered immediately, her voice crisp but tinged with relief. Thank God you're all right. I've been fielding calls from the board, the press, everyone. I'm fine, Claire, Jordan replied. But I need you to do something for me. Quietly. Of course. What is it? Look into the crash. Every detail. I want to know exactly what went wrong with that plane and why it went down. And I don't mean the official reports, I want the real story. There was a pause before Claire answered. Understood. I'll reach out to a few discreet contacts. Jordan hung up and leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples. Something about the whole situation felt off. It wasn't just the crash, it was the timing, the sudden warnings, and the way Jasper had seemed so certain that something bad was going to happen. There were too many coincidences for comfort. Meanwhile, Jasper sat in his cramped bedroom, the walls covered in faded posters of basketball players and space exploration. His younger sister, Layla, peeked in from the doorway. Jazz? You okay? She asked, her voice soft. Jasper nodded, though his mind was still spinning. Yeah, I'm fine. Layla stepped inside, sitting cross-legged on the bed. You're not fine. You've been staring at that wall for, like, an hour. Jasper sighed, running a hand through his messy curls. It's just, something weird happened tonight. I stopped this guy, some rich businessman, from getting on a plane, and then it crashed. Like, it actually crashed. Everyone on board, he trailed off, his voice cracking slightly. Layla's eyes widened. Are you serious? How did you know? I didn't, Jasper admitted. I just had this feeling. Like, this really bad feeling I couldn't ignore. Layla tilted her head, studying him. You've always been good at stuff like that, though. Remember last year, when you told me not to get in that car with those kids from school? And then they got into that accident. You sense things. Jasper frowned. He had never thought about it that way, but Layla was right. His instincts had always been sharp, sometimes unnervingly so. But this was different. This wasn't just a close call or a hunch, this was life and death on a scale he had never experienced before. I don't know what it means, Jasper said finally. But that guy, Jordan, he said he wants to talk to me. I think he thinks this happened for a reason. Maybe it did, Layla said simply. The next day, Jasper found himself standing in front of an enormous glass skyscraper in the heart of downtown Chicago. The building was sleek and imposing, its mirrored surface reflecting the bustling city around it. Jordan had asked him to meet there, and Jasper had reluctantly agreed, though he felt completely out of place in his thrift store jeans and scuffed sneakers. Inside, the receptionist greeted him with a polite smile before directing him to the top floor. As the elevator ascended, Jasper's stomach churned with nerves. He had no idea what Jordan wanted from him, and part of him was afraid he was about to be accused of something, or worse, dragged into some world he didn't belong in. When the elevator doors opened, Jordan was waiting in the conference room, dressed casually in a sweater and slacks. He gestured for Jasper to sit, offering him a bottled water. "I'm glad you came," Jordan said, his tone surprisingly warm. "I owe you my life, Jasper. And I don't say that lightly." Jasper shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "You don't owe me anything. I just did what felt right." "Maybe," Jordan said, leaning forward, "but not everyone would have done what you did. And not everyone has instincts like yours. That's why I wanted to talk to you." Jasper frowned. "What do you mean?" Jordan tapped his fingers on the table thoughtfully. "The plane crash wasn't an accident. The preliminary reports are already pointing to sabotage. Someone wanted me dead, and they almost succeeded." Jasper's blood ran cold. "Sabotage? Are you serious?" "Deadly serious," Jordan said. "And I need to figure out who's behind it before they try again. That's where you come in." "Me?" Jasper blinked in disbelief. "I'm just a kid. What could I possibly do?" "You see things other people don't," Jordan said simply. "You trust your gut, and so far, it hasn't been wrong. I think you might be able to help me figure out what's really going on." Jasper hesitated, the weight of Jordan's words sinking in. Part of him wanted to walk away and pretend this was all a bad dream, but another part, a bigger part, felt compelled to stay. For better or worse, he had been dragged into something much bigger than himself. And deep down, he knew there was no turning back. Jasper stared at Jordan in stunned silence, the gravity of his words pressing down on him like a heavy weight. Sabotage. Someone had tried to kill Jordan, and by some twist of fate, Jasper had stopped them, at least for now. But the idea that there were people out there who wanted Jordan dead made his skin crawl. "I don't know," Jasper finally said, shaking his head. "I'm not a detective or anything. What can I do that your people can't?" Jordan leaned back in his chair, his sharp eyes fixed on Jasper. "That's the thing, my people, as competent as they are, tend to see things through one lens. They focus on the obvious, follow the usual protocols. You don't think like that. You have a fresh perspective, instincts that can't be taught. That's exactly what I need." Jasper swallowed hard, his instincts screaming at him to get up and leave. But a smaller voice, the same one that had told him to stop Jordan the night before, whispered that he should stay. Against his better judgment, he nodded slowly. "Okay. I'll help, but I don't know how much I can really do." "That's all I need," Jordan said with a faint smile. "Let's start with what I already know." He pulled out a tablet and slid it across the table. On the screen were profiles of several individuals, their names and photos accompanied by summaries of their connections to Jordan's companies. "These are the people I suspect might be behind this," Jordan explained. "Former business partners, competitors, even a few high-ranking employees who might have had something to gain if I were out of the picture." Jasper scanned the faces on the screen. Most of them looked like the type of polished professionals he saw on TV, expensive suits, cold smiles, eyes that hid too much. One face, though, stood out, a younger man with sharp features and a confident smirk. "Who's this guy?" Jasper asked, pointing to the photo. Jordan glanced at the screen. "That's Trevor Calloway. He used to be my right-hand man until I caught him skimming money from one of our projects. I fired him 6 months ago, and he's been threatening lawsuits ever since." "Seems like a pretty big grudge," Jasper said, his mind already turning over possibilities. "It is," Jordan agreed. "But I can't accuse him without proof, and he's careful, always keeps his hands clean." Jasper tapped his fingers against the table, his nerves giving way to a spark of curiosity. "What about the others?" Jordan walked him through the list, detailing each person's history and possible motives. There was Evelyn Marsh, a former investor who had lost millions after one of Jordan's ventures collapsed, Victor Lang, a rival CEO whose company had been outmaneuvered by Jordan's in a high-stakes deal, and Angela Reeves, a high-level executive who had been passed over for a promotion. "They all have reasons to hate me," Jordan admitted. "The question is, who's desperate enough to try something like this?" Jasper frowned, his instincts tugging at him again. "Do you have security footage from the hangar? Maybe there's something there." Jordan nodded. "I've already had my team pull it. They're analyzing it now, but I can get you access to it if you want to take a look." "Yeah," Jasper said, surprising even himself with his confidence. "I do." Later that evening, Jasper sat in a small conference room with Jordan and a security specialist named Marcus. The footage from the hangar played on a large monitor, showing the hours leading up to the crash. Jasper leaned forward, his eyes scanning every detail, the comings and goings of ground crew, the equipment being loaded, even the way the plane gleamed under the harsh lights. "There," Jasper said suddenly, pointing at the screen. "Pause it." Marcus froze the footage. On the edge of the frame, a man in a maintenance uniform was walking toward the plane, carrying a large toolbox. Something about the way he moved, hurried, almost nervous, caught Jasper's attention. "Who's that?" Jasper asked. Marcus frowned. "I don't recognize him. Could be a contractor." "Can we zoom in?" Jordan asked. Marcus adjusted the footage, bringing the man's face into focus. He had a scruffy beard, a baseball cap pulled low over his eyes, and a name tag that read Lewis. "Is that a real employee?" Jasper asked. Marcus typed something into his laptop, accessing the airport's personnel records. After a moment, he shook his head. No one named Lewis was scheduled to work that night. Jasper felt a chill run down his spine. So he was posing as crew. "Looks like it," Marcus said grimly. "We need to figure out who this guy is, and fast." Jordan nodded, his expression hardening. "If he's involved, he might lead us to whoever's behind this." That night, as Jasper walked home, his mind was a whirlwind of thoughts. The idea that someone had disguised themselves to sabotage the plane made everything feel more real, and more dangerous. He thought about Layla, about the risks he was taking by getting involved. But he also thought about Jordan's trust in him, the chance to do something that truly mattered. As he reached his building, Jasper glanced over his shoulder, a strange sense of being watched creeping over him. The street was empty, but the feeling didn't go away. For the first time in his life, Jasper realized that his instincts weren't just a gift, they were a lifeline. And he was going to need them now more than ever. The next day, Jasper arrived at Jordan's office earlier than expected, his nerves buzzing. He hadn't been able to shake the eerie sensation of being watched the night before. His sleep had been restless, his dreams filled with shadowy figures and the fiery wreckage of the plane. Now, standing in the sleek lobby of Westbrook Enterprises, he felt the weight of what he had stepped into settling heavily on his shoulders. Claire, Jordan's assistant, greeted him with a warm but distracted smile. "Mr. Westbrook is in a meeting right now, but he asked me to bring you to the security team's room. They're expecting you." Jasper nodded, following her through the maze of glass-walled offices and high-tech conference rooms. The building was unlike anything he had ever seen, every surface gleaming, every detail polished to perfection. It felt like a different world, a world he wasn't sure he belonged in. Claire stopped at a door labeled Security Operations, and swiped her badge to let them in. Inside, Marcus and two other members of Jordan's security team were seated at a long table, several monitors displaying live feeds, documents, and stills from the hangar footage. "Ah, there he is," Marcus said, gesturing for Jasper to take a seat. "We've been digging into that guy from the footage, the one with the fake uniform. You were right to flag him. Turns out he's not just some random contractor." Jasper sat down, leaning forward. "Who is he?" Marcus pulled up a file on one of the monitors. His real name is Eric Darnell. He's got a record, a few minor offenses like trespassing and fraud. But what's more interesting is his recent activity. He's been linked to a private security firm called Sentinel Solutions. They specialize in, let's just say, shady contracts. Unofficial jobs for people who don't want to get their hands dirty. Jasper frowned. So someone hired him to sabotage the plane? Looks that way, Marcus said. We're working on tracing his movements in the days leading up to the crash. He disappeared after the incident, but we found something interesting. He clicked on a screen, showing a blurry photo of Eric in a coffee shop. Across the table from him sat a man with sharp features and a confident smirk, the same man Jasper had pointed out in the suspect list, Trevor Calloway. That's Calloway, Jordan said as he entered the room, his voice cutting through the tension. He looked at Jasper with a mixture of respect and urgency. Good catch, kid. This connects him to the sabotage. Jasper felt a surge of adrenaline. What do we do now? Can you go to the police? Jordan hesitated. We could. But Calloway's smart. He'll deny everything, and without direct evidence tying him to the crash, he'll walk. Worse, he'll know we're onto him and cover his tracks. So what's the plan? Jasper asked, his pulse quickening. We need more, Marcus said. Something solid, documents, communication records, anything that directly implicates him. Jordan nodded. And I think I know where to start. Calloway has a private office downtown. If he's sloppy enough, he might have left a trail there. But we'll need to be careful. Jasper's stomach twisted. Careful how? You're not saying we should break in, are you? Jordan gave him a pointed look. Not exactly. But we might need to bend a few rules to get what we need. That evening, Jasper found himself in an unmarked SUV parked a block away from Calloway's office building. The streets were quiet, the usual bustle of downtown Chicago replaced by the soft hum of streetlights and the occasional passing car. Jasper sat in the back seat, fidgeting with the zipper of his hoodie as Marcus and another security team member, Elena, went over the plan. The building has decent security, Marcus explained, showing Jasper a blueprint on a tablet. But nothing we can't handle. Elena and I will get inside and access Calloway's office. Your job is to monitor the cameras from here and let us know if anything looks suspicious. Jasper swallowed hard. And if something does? You let us know immediately, Elena said firmly. No heroics. Jasper nodded, though his heart was pounding. He wasn't sure how he had gone from working at a gas station to being part of a covert operation in less than a week. But there was no turning back now. Inside the SUV, Jasper stared at the monitors, his eyes darting between the different camera feeds. Marcus and Elena moved through the building with practiced ease, their earpieces crackling softly as they communicated with him. We're approaching Calloway's office, Marcus said. Jasper, how's it looking? Jasper scanned the feeds. Clear so far. No one in the halls. Good. Keep an eye out, Marcus replied. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours as Jasper watched the screens, his nerves on edge. Then, just as Marcus and Elena entered Calloway's office, Jasper spotted movement on one of the feeds. Wait, he said, his voice tight. There's someone in the stairwell. Coming up fast. Can you see who it is? Marcus asked. Jasper zoomed in on the feed, his stomach sinking. It was Eric Darnell, the man from the hangar footage. He was dressed in black, a determined look on his face as he climbed the stairs. It's him, Jasper said. The guy from the footage. He's heading your way. Damn it, Marcus muttered. Elena, we need to wrap this up, now. I'm on it, Elena said, her voice calm but urgent. On the screen, Jasper watched as Marcus and Elena scrambled to copy files from Calloway's computer onto a flash drive. Meanwhile, Eric was getting closer, his pace quickening as he neared the office floor. "Guys, he's almost there," Jasper warned. "You need to move." "We're out," Marcus said. Jasper watched as the two of them slipped out of the office just as Eric reached the hallway. They managed to duck into a supply closet, avoiding detection as Eric entered the office. "He's inside," Jasper whispered. "Stay quiet." For the next few minutes, Jasper held his breath, watching as Eric searched the office, his movements frantic. Finally, Eric left, heading back the way he came. Once the coast was clear, Marcus and Elena exited the closet and made their way back to the SUV. When they returned, Marcus handed Jasper the flash drive, his expression grim but satisfied. "You did good, kid. We've got what we need. Now let's see if it's enough to take Calloway down." As the SUV pulled away from the building, Jasper leaned back in his seat, his heart still racing. He had stepped into a world of danger and deception, but for the first time, he felt like he was truly making a difference. Whatever happened next, he was ready. Back at Jordan's office, the atmosphere was tense as Marcus plugged the flash drive into a secure laptop. Jasper sat at the edge of his seat, his heart pounding as files began to populate the screen. There were folders upon folders, labeled with cryptic names like Operations, Contracts, and Private. Marcus navigated through them quickly, his fingers flying over the keyboard. "Anything yet?" Jordan asked, his voice tight with impatience. "Give me a second," Marcus muttered. "These files are encrypted, but not well. I'll crack them in no time." Jasper glanced around the room, feeling a gnawing sense of unease. Despite their small victory in retrieving the files, he couldn't shake the memory of Eric Darnell storming into Calloway's office. The man had been desperate, almost frantic. Whatever he was looking for, it was clear he wouldn't stop until he got it. "Got it," Marcus said suddenly, breaking the silence. A folder labeled Offshore Accounts opened, revealing a spreadsheet with names, dates, and suspiciously large transfers. "Looks like Calloway's been funneling money into offshore accounts. These sums are way too big to be legit." Jordan leaned over Marcus's shoulder, his sharp eyes scanning the screen. "These are bribes," he said, his voice low. "He's been paying off contractors, competitors, maybe even government officials. But what does this have to do with the plane crash?" Jasper asked, his brow furrowing. "Hold on," Marcus said, opening another file. This one was an email chain, and as he scrolled through it, his expression grew darker. "Here we go. Calloway was coordinating with someone, to sabotage your plane, Jordan." "Eric Darnell," Jordan said grimly, his jaw tightening. Marcus nodded. "These emails spell it out. Calloway paid Darnell to plant a device on the plane and ensured he had access to the hangar. They even planned a backup story to cover their tracks if things went sideways." Jasper felt a wave of nausea. "So this wasn't just about you losing your life. They wanted to make it look like an accident, like you were reckless or incompetent." "Exactly," Jordan said, his voice cold. "If the public believed I was irresponsible, it would destroy my reputation, and my company. Calloway could swoop in and take control either directly or by buying out my competitors." The room fell silent as the weight of the conspiracy settled over them. Finally, Jordan straightened, his expression hard as steel. "We need to take this to the authorities." "Wait," Marcus said, holding up a hand. "If we go to the police now, Calloway might still find a way to wriggle out of this. He has money, connections, and probably a whole team of lawyers ready to bury us in red tape. We need something airtight, something that guarantees he can't escape." "What else could we need?" Jasper asked, his voice rising in frustration. "We have emails, transactions, everything. We need Eric Darnell," Marcus said simply. "If we can get him to flip on Calloway, his testimony will seal the deal." Jordan nodded. "He's right. Darnell is the linchpin. If we can find him and convince him to talk, Calloway won't stand a chance. Tracking Eric Darnell was easier said than done. Over the next few days, Marcus and his team combed through security footage, financial records, and phone metadata to pinpoint his location. Meanwhile, Jordan stayed out of sight, knowing that Calloway would be watching for any sign of him. Jasper spent those days torn between fear and determination. He couldn't help but think about his sister, Layla, and what might happen if he ended up in Calloway's crosshairs. But every time doubt crept in, he reminded himself why he was doing this, because it was the right thing to do. Finally, Marcus called a meeting, his expression grim but triumphant. "We've got him," he announced. "Darnell's been laying low in an old warehouse on the south side of the city. Looks like he's been avoiding electronic payments, probably trying to stay off the radar." "What's the plan?" Jordan asked. "We pay him a visit," Marcus said. "But we have to be careful. If he feels cornered, he might bolt, or worse." The warehouse was a crumbling relic of Chicago's industrial past, its windows boarded up and its brick walls streaked with grime. Jasper, Jordan, and Marcus approached cautiously, their footsteps crunching on the gravel-strewn ground. Jasper's heart raced as they reached the door, a rusty metal slab that looked like it hadn't been opened in years. Marcus knocked sharply. "Darnell. We know you're in there. Open up, or we're coming in." For a moment, there was no response. Then, the door creaked open a few inches, and Darnell's wary face appeared. His eyes darted between them, wild with fear. "Who the hell are you?" he demanded. "You know who I am," Jordan said, stepping forward. "And you know why we're here." Darnell's face went pale. "I don't know anything. Leave me alone." "We've got the emails, Darnell," Marcus said bluntly. "We know everything, about Calloway, the plane, all of it. If you don't cooperate, you're going down with him." Darnell hesitated, his hand gripping the edge of the door like it was the only thing keeping him upright. "You don't understand. If I talk, he'll kill me. And if you don't, you'll go to prison for the rest of your life," Jordan said coldly. "Think carefully about your next move." Jasper stepped forward, his voice softer. "Look, I get it. You're scared. But this is your chance to do the right thing. If you help us, we can protect you. You don't have to go down for what he did." Darnell looked at Jasper, his fear slowly giving way to something else, reluctant hope. Finally, he nodded, stepping back to let them in. "I'll talk," he said quietly. "But you'd better keep your promise." As they stepped inside, Jasper felt a glimmer of hope for the first time in days. They were one step closer to bringing Calloway down, and ensuring that justice was served. Inside the dimly lit warehouse, Eric Darnell slumped onto an old wooden crate, his hands trembling as he lit a cigarette. The faint glow from a single hanging bulb flickered above, casting harsh shadows across his face. Jasper, Jordan, and Marcus stood in a loose semicircle around him, watching every move he made. The tension in the air was palpable. "You've got a lot to answer for, Darnell," Jordan said, his voice cutting through the silence like a knife. "But right now, I only care about one thing, taking Calloway down." "Talk." Darnell took a long drag from his cigarette, exhaling slowly. His eyes darted around the room as if expecting someone to burst in at any moment. "You don't get it," he muttered, his voice shaky. "Calloway's not just some rich guy with a grudge. He's got connections, dangerous ones. If I talk, it won't just be me he comes after. It'll be you, too." "We're not afraid of him," Marcus said firmly. "You should be more afraid of what'll happen if you don't cooperate. We've got enough evidence to implicate you. But if you help us, we can protect you and cut you a deal." Darnell hesitated, glancing at Jasper. "What about him? What's his deal? He doesn't look like a cop." "I'm not," Jasper said, stepping forward. I'm just a guy who happened to stop Jordan from getting on that plane. If I hadn't, well, you know how that would have ended. Darnell's face twisted with guilt, and he dropped his gaze to the floor. That wasn't supposed to happen, he muttered. I mean, yeah, the plan was to take out Westbrook, but Calloway swore it'd be clean, no one else involved. When I heard about the crash, about all those people on board, he trailed off, his voice cracking. Then do something about it, Jasper urged. Make it right. For a long moment, Darnell didn't speak. Then he stubbed out his cigarette and looked up, his jaw set with grim determination. Fine. I'll tell you everything. Over the next hour, Darnell laid it all out. He explained how Calloway had approached him months ago, offering a large sum of money to sabotage Jordan's plane. At first, Darnell had hesitated, but mounting debts and the promise of a clean getaway had lured him in. Calloway had provided detailed instructions, including a backup plan to frame the crash as a mechanical failure. It was all about timing, Darnell said. Calloway knew you'd be in the air when a big announcement about your company's next project went public. If you died, your board would panic, the stock would tank, and he'd swoop in to pick up the pieces. The guy's a shark. Marcus scribbled notes furiously while Jordan's expression darkened with every word. Jasper, meanwhile, couldn't help but feel a surge of anger at the cold, calculated way Calloway had planned everything. What about the connections you mentioned? Marcus asked. Who's backing Calloway? Darnell hesitated again, fear flickering in his eyes. There's a group. Calloway's been cozying up to them for years, powerful people who operate in the shadows. They're the ones who gave him the resources to pull this off. I don't know their names, but I've heard enough to know they're not the kind of people you cross. Jordan leaned forward, his voice low and dangerous. Do you have anything that can tie Calloway to them? Documents, recordings, anything? Darnell nodded reluctantly. Yeah. I kept some backups, just in case he tried to screw me over. They're on a hard drive at my apartment. Then that's where we're going next, Marcus said. The group left the warehouse just as the first rays of dawn began to creep over the city. Darnell directed them to a rundown apartment complex on the south side, his paranoia growing with every block they passed. Inside his apartment, the air was stale, and the furniture was sparse. Darnell rummaged through a pile of clothes and papers until he pulled out a small, battered external hard drive. This is it, he said, handing it to Marcus. Everything I've got on Calloway. Before anyone could respond, there was a sudden, sharp knock at the door. Darnell froze, his face draining of color. No one knows I'm here, he whispered. Marcus motioned for everyone to stay quiet as he drew his firearm and moved to the side of the door. Jasper's heart pounded in his chest as the knock came again, louder this time. Eric Darnell, a voice called from the other side. Open up. We know you're in there. It's them, Darnell hissed, panic flooding his voice. Calloway's people. Stay calm, Marcus said, signaling for everyone to move toward the back of the apartment. He turned to Jordan. Take the kid and Darnell out the fire escape. I'll handle this. No way, Jordan said. I'm not leaving you behind. You don't have a choice, Marcus snapped. We need to get this evidence out of here. Go. Reluctantly, Jordan grabbed Jasper and Darnell, pushing them toward the window. Jasper scrambled onto the fire escape, his hands shaking as he climbed down the rickety metal stairs. Darnell followed, muttering curses under his breath, while Jordan brought up the rear. As they reached the alley below, they heard the crash of the door being kicked open and the sound of voices shouting. Jasper glanced up, his stomach twisting with fear for Marcus, but Jordan grabbed his arm. Keep moving, he ordered. We can't stop now. They ran through the alley, weaving through trash and debris, until they reached Jordan's car parked a block away. As they sped off, Jasper looked back one last time, his mind racing with questions. Marcus had stayed behind to buy them time, but for how long? And even with the hard drive, would they have enough to bring Calloway down before he struck again? Jasper clenched his fists, determination rising in his chest. They had come too far to fail now. Jasper paced the length of Jordan's office, his nerves frayed. The events at Eric Darnell's apartment had left him shaken, and the image of Marcus staying behind to face Calloway's men haunted him. Every passing second felt like an eternity as they waited for news. Jordan sat at his desk, phone in hand, issuing orders to his legal team and trusted associates. His face was a mask of calm determination, but Jasper could see the tension in the set of his jaw and the way his hands gripped the phone. Across the room, Eric Darnell sat hunched in a chair, his leg bouncing nervously. He clutched a cup of coffee, though his hands shook so much he could barely hold it steady. "You think he made it out?" Darnell asked, his voice a mix of fear and guilt. Jordan looked up, his eyes narrowing. "Marcus knows how to handle himself. We don't leave our people behind, and we don't give up." Jasper stopped pacing, his fists clenched. "We need to do something. We can't just sit here and hope everything works out." Jordan nodded. "We are doing something. Right now, Marcus is buying us time to analyze the hard drive and secure the evidence we need to bring Calloway down. If we act too soon, we risk tipping him off before we have an airtight case." As if on cue, Marcus's voice crackled over the speakerphone on Jordan's desk. "I'm out. Took a few hits, but nothing I can't handle." Relief flooded the room. "Where are you?" Jordan asked. "Safe house downtown. I'll lay low until the heat dies down." "Did you get anything from the hard drive?" "Not yet," Jordan replied. "We're about to start digging through it." Jordan's team worked tirelessly over the next several hours, decrypting the files on the hard drive and piecing together the puzzle of Calloway's operation. Jasper sat beside Marcus, who had returned with a bruised face and a bandaged arm but seemed otherwise unshaken. Together, they watched as more and more damning evidence came to light. The hard drive contained everything: financial transactions, correspondence between Calloway and his shadowy allies, and detailed plans for sabotaging Jordan's plane. There were even contingency plans for framing Jordan's company for unrelated crimes, ensuring Calloway could swoop in and take control after Jordan's reputation was destroyed. "This is it," Marcus said, his voice firm. "This is enough to take him down." Jordan leaned over the table, his expression hard. "We're not stopping at Calloway. We're going after his entire network. Every single person who enabled him to do this." "But how?" Jasper asked. "We can't fight all these people alone." Jordan straightened, his gaze locking onto Jasper's. "We're not alone. We have the law on our side. And with this evidence, we can expose Calloway for what he really is." The next day, Jordan's legal team presented the evidence to federal authorities. It wasn't long before warrants were issued, and Calloway's world began to crumble. Jasper watched from the sidelines as news outlets picked up the story, broadcasting images of Calloway being led out of his office in handcuffs. The scandal spread like wildfire. Reporters dug into every aspect of Calloway's empire, uncovering years of corruption and deceit. His allies scrambled to distance themselves, but many were also arrested as more evidence surfaced. Jasper felt a mix of triumph and disbelief as he watched the fallout unfold. He had never imagined himself being part of something so big, so life-changing. Yet here he was, standing beside Jordan as they dismantled an empire built on greed and manipulation. Weeks later, Jasper sat on the rooftop of Jordan's building, staring out at the city. The air was cool, and the lights of Chicago stretched out before him like a sea of stars. Jordan joined him, holding 2 cups of coffee. He handed one to Jasper and took a seat beside him. "You did good, kid," Jordan said after a moment. "Better than good. None of this would have happened without you." Jasper shrugged, though he couldn't hide the pride in his smile. "I just followed my instincts. And saved my life, Jordan added. That's not something I take lightly. Jasper looked down at the cup in his hands. What happens now? For you? Jordan asked. That's up to you. You've got potential, Jasper. Real potential. If you want it, I can help you go to college, get the opportunities you deserve. Or if you'd rather stay in this fight, helping people, uncovering the truth, I can show you how. Jasper thought for a long moment, the weight of the decision settling over him. Finally, he nodded. I want to help. I want to do something that matters. Jordan smiled, raising his cup in a toast. Then here's to new beginnings. As they sat together, watching the city bustle below, Jasper felt a sense of purpose he had never known before. He had faced danger, uncovered the truth, and stood up to powerful forces, and he had come out stronger on the other side. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he knew he was ready to face them. This story is a powerful reminder of how even the smallest voices and actions can have profound ripple effects. Jasper, a teenager with no wealth, status, or formal power, proves that courage, intuition, and a sense of justice can challenge even the most deeply rooted corruption. The contrast between his humble beginnings and the high-stakes world he steps into shows that heroes can come from anywhere, and their strength often lies in their authenticity and willingness to do what others won't. The ending, while optimistic, doesn't wrap everything up too neatly, because real growth and change don't happen overnight. Instead, it leaves us with hope, that individuals like Jasper can rise above their circumstances, that even the most daunting enemies can be brought down with determination and unity, and that new beginnings often come from the most unexpected places. Ultimately, it's a story about believing in yourself and the power of doing the right thing, even when the odds seem impossible. It's a testament to how one act of bravery can not only save a life but inspire a future.